Lewis Hamilton is facing a headline that could completely change his Hungarian Grand Prix, a 3-place penalty after qualifying, with traffic, tire damage, and Ferrari's entire strategy suddenly under threat. But there is a serious problem. The attached source does not confirm that the penalty happened, explain what Hamilton allegedly did, or include an official decision from the stewards. That missing evidence changes everything, because before anyone can judge the punishment, there is one question that must be answered. Is Hamilton really facing a devastating grid drop, or has an unverified claim turned into a Formula One bombshell before the facts have even arrived? Subscribe to the channel. Before judging the punishment, we need to separate the headline from the evidence. The claim is dramatic. Lewis Hamilton, 3 places lower on the grid, after qualifying in Hungary. On paper, that sounds like a devastating setback. But the attached source does not include the steward's ruling, the alleged offense, the original qualifying position, or any official confirmation that the penalty was issued. And that missing information matters. In Formula One, a grid penalty is never just a number. The reason behind it changes the entire meaning of the story. A driver can be penalized for blocking another car, ignoring instructions, changing restricted components, or breaking a rule that only becomes clear after the session ends. But none of those explanations can be attached to Hamilton here, because the source does not identify one. That creates the first major problem. Without an official decision, we do not know whether the reported 3-place drop is real, misunderstood, or simply being repeated without context. And in a sport where a single line in a steward's document can change the grid, context is everything. Think about what 5th place would mean at Hungary. The first corner arrives quickly. The track narrows. Cars bunch together, and drivers who expected clean air suddenly find themselves fighting in traffic. Starting 3 positions lower could affect the launch, the first lap risk, the tire plan, and the timing of the opening pit stop. That sounds serious, because it is. But the scale of the damage depends on facts we still do not have. Was Hamilton originally on the front row? Was he promoted or demoted after another decision? Was the penalty applied to the race grid, or was the headline describing something else entirely? The source gives no answer. And this is where the story becomes more important than the headline itself. Because the most dangerous part of an unverified Formula One claim is how quickly speculation begins to replace the actual ruling. Fans start debating whether the punishment was fair. Rivals are accused of benefiting. Ferrari's strategy is declared ruined. Hamilton's race is written off before the grid has even been officially explained. But none of those conclusions are safe without the missing document. That does not make the claim unimportant. It makes verification even more important. If the 3-place penalty is confirmed, then Hamilton's challenge becomes immediate. He would have fewer options, more traffic, and less room for error. But if the claim is inaccurate, then the real story is not the punishment. It is how a dramatic headline was able to create a crisis before the evidence appeared. And that leaves us with the question that now controls everything. What exactly did the FIA decide, and why is that decision not included in the source? And until that official decision is available, every consequence has to remain conditional. If Hamilton really has been moved back 3 places, the first damage would not appear on the timing screen. It would appear in the choices Ferrari is forced to make. A driver starting higher can often control the opening phase of the race. He can focus on the cars ahead, protect the tires, and wait for the strategy to develop. A driver starting deeper in the field has a different problem. He must react. React to slower cars. React to traffic. React to drivers defending positions they may never have expected to hold against him. And that is where a 3-place drop can become much more expensive than it sounds. 3 places on the grid do not always equal 3 places at the finish. Sometimes they cost only a few seconds. Sometimes they change the entire race. Imagine Hamilton starting behind a group of cars running closely together. Even if his car has more speed, he may not be able to use it immediately. The air behind another car becomes disturbed. Grip can disappear through the corners. The tires can begin to overheat, and every lap spent waiting gives the leaders more room to escape. That is the first chain reaction. But it is not the most dangerous one. The deeper problem is strategy. Ferrari would have prepared its race around a specific starting position. The opening tire choice, the likely pit window, and the expected traffic would all be connected to that place on the grid. Move Hamilton back, and those calculations change. An early pit stop might release him into clean air. Or it might drop him behind another group. A longer first stint might protect flexibility. Or it might leave him trapped while the race moves away. Every option becomes more uncertain. And this is where the missing reason for the alleged penalty becomes impossible to ignore. Because the cause matters. If the decision followed an incident during qualifying, then the timing of the ruling matters. If it involved another driver, then the steward's explanation matters. If it came from a technical or procedural issue, then the exact wording matters even more. Without that information, nobody can honestly judge whether the punishment fits the offense. But the pressure on Hamilton would be real if the grid drop is confirmed. He would know that recovering too slowly could ruin the strategy. He would also know that attacking too aggressively could damage the tires or create contact. That creates a brutal choice. Be patient and risk losing the race. Force the issue and risk losing everything. The first lap would become especially important. Hungary can compress the field into the opening corner. Cars arrive close together, space disappears quickly, and one defensive move can affect several drivers behind. Hamilton would not only be fighting for positions. He would be fighting for control of the race. And there is another detail that often gets overlooked. The drivers around him would know exactly what he needs to do. They would know he wants to recover quickly. They would know he may be under pressure to attack. And some of them could use that urgency against him. A driver ahead can defend the inside line and force Hamilton onto a less useful route. Another car can make him wait through the slower corners. Even a short delay can heat the tires and reduce the grip needed for the next attempt. That sounds like a small problem. Over several laps, it becomes a major one. The penalty would also place Ferrari under pressure from the pit wall. The team would need to decide whether to help Hamilton escape traffic through strategy, or trust him to make progress on the track. Neither choice is safe. Stopping early could create clean air, but it could also force a longer final stint. Waiting could protect the tires, but it might surrender too much time. And if Ferrari hesitates, the best opportunity could disappear before the team commits. This is why the official explanation matters so much. The alleged three-place drop is not just a change on a grid sheet. It could alter the opening lap, the tire plan, the pit window, the traffic pattern, and Hamilton's level of acceptable risk. But until the FIA ruling is actually present in the source, the central claim remains unverified. And that creates a second story underneath the first. One about how quickly a dramatic penalty can be treated as fact. One about how a missing document can be replaced by speculation. And one about why the most important part of this entire situation is not the number 3. It is the reason behind it. And that reason is what determines whether this is a routine sporting decision, or something far more damaging for Hamilton and Ferrari. Because a penalty can be measured in positions, but its real impact is measured in lost options. If the reported three-place drop is confirmed, Ferrari would no longer be preparing the race it expected after qualifying. The team would be preparing a recovery. And those are two very different challenges. A normal front-running race is built around control. Protect the tires. Manage the gap. Respond to the cars ahead. A recovery race begins with uncertainty. Hamilton would need to judge how aggressively to attack, Ferrari would need to predict traffic, and both sides would have to accept that one early decision could shape everything that follows. But here is what most people miss. Starting 5th would not automatically mean Hamilton's race is over. It would mean the race becomes less predictable. That distinction matters. A driver starting from 5th can still gain positions. A strong launch can create an opportunity. A well-timed pit stop can change the order. A safety car can transform the strategy. But none of those possibilities can be guaranteed. And the more Ferrari depends on unpredictable events, the less control the team truly has. That is the real cost of losing grid position. Not simply starting behind more cars. Losing the ability to dictate the race. Hamilton may be forced to spend the opening laps watching the drivers ahead instead of attacking immediately. Ferrari may need to delay a strategy call because the traffic is not clearing. The team may even find itself choosing between protecting Hamilton's tires and protecting his track position. That is not one problem. It is several problems arriving at the same time. And pressure has a way of connecting them. Suppose Hamilton attacks early and gains a place. That sounds positive. But if the move requires several laps of close following, the tires may already have paid a price. Suppose Ferrari responds with an early pit stop. That might create space. But if Hamilton returns to the track behind another group, the team has exchanged one traffic problem for another. Suppose Ferrari waits. The tires may last longer, but the leaders could build a gap that cannot be recovered. Every route offers hope. Every route also carries risk. And that is why the exact wording of the alleged ruling remains so important. The attached material does not provide it. It does not identify the offense, explain the evidence, or confirm how the stewards reached their decision. Without those details, claims about unfairness cannot be treated as fact. Claims about Ferrari being targeted cannot be treated as fact. And claims about Hamilton's race being destroyed cannot be treated as fact. What can be said is this. If Hamilton has genuinely been moved back 3 places, Ferrari would enter the race with less control, more traffic, and a smaller margin for error. That is serious enough without adding anything unsupported. But the human side of the pressure may be even more important. Hamilton would know that the public conversation had already changed. Instead of discussing his qualifying performance, attention would move toward the penalty. Instead of entering the race with momentum, he would enter it with questions. Was the decision fair? Could it have been avoided? How much has it changed the result before the race has even started? Those questions create noise. And elite drivers are expected to block that noise out. But blocking it out does not make it disappear. Every defensive car ahead could become a reminder of the lost positions. Every delayed pit call could bring the penalty back into focus. Every lap spent outside the expected result could make the pressure feel heavier. That is when discipline becomes more valuable than anger. Hamilton would need to resist the urge to recover everything immediately. Ferrari would need to resist the urge to chase a dramatic solution. The smartest race may not look spectacular at first. It may begin with patience. It may require waiting for the tires of the cars ahead to weaken. It may depend on one clean strategic window rather than several desperate moves. And that sounds simple. It is not. Patience only works when the race is still moving toward you. Wait too long, and the opportunity disappears. Attack too soon, and the tires disappear first. That is the balance Hamilton and Ferrari may be forced to manage. But another consequence could become even more important as the race develops. Because once Ferrari changes Hamilton's strategy to escape traffic, the team may also affect the strategy of the other Ferrari car. And that is where an individual penalty could become a problem for the entire team.